Welcome to the Fraudcast, everybody. It's so nice to see you all. It is a weekly get-together that Vito and I host for folks in the e-commerce fraud and risk space to talk about all things fraud, latest trends, things that you guys are dealing with in your queues. It's a great place to bring your questions and get advice from other professionals such as yourselves. If you're able to be on camera, please do. If you can't, that's totally fine. You can hang back and listen in. And keep in mind that we do record these sessions as you're sharing so that we could share them with folks who are not able to join us at this time. I'm really excited for our session today. Excited for what Vito has to share. And if something speaks to you, if you have a question that's not related to any of the content that Vito is sharing today necessarily, please feel free to come off mute and be part of the conversation or post in the chat. You guys all know that though. So with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Vito.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Fraudcast. You know, we've so much to talk about today. I was talking to my good friend, Emma Linane. She got me kind of riled up. And you know what, Emma? I kind of have to open with this. We're going to talk masterclass stuff today. We're going to talk high AOV fraud. But I'm just wondering, this is kind of pointing to my brother Jared and to some other, look at the great names we've got here. Bradley, Julie. A round of applause for Shelly. What a great episode that was last week. Doing numbies on the socials right now. We got Kalina, Becca Riley, Brian, Jessica Flores. How you doing? Katarina, Mr. Preston, Jamie, Emma, who has been subject to my ranting that I'm about to get onto. Hollywood's Ben Lee. Peter, great to see you again. Miss D up in the limousine. What's going on, Miss D? Matthew Tracy, how are you? Great to see you. Marcy, Jared, this question's kind of coming for you. Flannel Fred, meet Flannel Francis, Ryan McDonald. Blaze, I feel like we got a lot to talk about. I got a lot to hear from you, Blaze, today. Joanna and your friend, host of The Digital Edge, Ellie Ronning. Ellie's been around the world. Welcome back to Earth, Ellie. I always do this and I don't mention Jenna. This is nothing without Jenna. Jenna, I tip my hat to you. Great to see you, Jenna. Before I get into the high AOV fraud stuff, I was talking to Emma, and I remember Jared posted about this in our Slack channel about 2 months ago, probably. Industries you wouldn't work in. I'm having a lot of existential dread about certain industries. I'm not going to name names. If I name some names, I feel like I'll be deplatformed entirely. Let's talk about websites where you can sell, I don't know, pictures of your feet. That's one of them. Okay. Gambling websites is another one. Ms. D and Ryan are talking about the data centers and their heavy cooling turbines, aka windbreakers. We know a lot about breaking wind out here on the ranch. The reason for random wildfires. Those two. I'm feeling a little bit about a little sweat under the collar. Now, full disclosure, I love my job. I ain't going anywhere, baby. But when we think about a future, 10, 20, 50 years in the past, we're still going to be working 50 years from now. Anyone have any hackles? Anything get your goat when you think about certain industries that maybe you want to break into, or maybe you're kind of getting a little bit of the heebie-jeebies from? I need to bring this up because Em and I were going back and forth on it. If you've got an idea about this, I'd love to hear about it now while I take a sip of this Ogallala Aquifer well water before those dastardly data centers steal this water from me. Now, we don't mistake silence for antipathy here on the Fraudcast, and we also know that the overlords are listening. And if you were to go onto a recording that's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, KLTV and Amarillo Public Access, thank you for hosting us every week. Next to the weekly roundup, where they sell everything from skunk traps to bear traps to mouse traps, thank you for hosting us. If you go on any of these platforms and there's recorded testimonial of somebody saying, I'll never work in the gambling industry, that might go kind of south for your career prospects. See, I'm even choking. My conscience is telling me don't shoot yourself in the foot. Just think about it. Just think about it.
So I may not be going down the right path here on my response, but I'm going to throw it out there. So one of the things I wonder is we live in a crazy, crazy world. And with the economy being like it is, I almost wonder If you're in a business that's non-essential, where you sell non-essential goods, that would be something to where you'd be like, hey, this job probably won't be here 10 years from now if the economy is not improving, because people are going to have to make decisions based off of what is necessary, like groceries, versus what is not necessary, like gambling, right? Unless they hope that they're going to, catch the big one and then they won't have any needs anymore. I don't know, but that's one thing I wonder. And I think if I were in a position where I worked for a company that was a non-essential, and more of a luxury, that would be something I would think about would be concerning. So again, I may not be following you exactly, but just something.
You
I
took
think
my Miss D, please. But I was saying, Matthew, you took my messy thoughts and you made them brilliant. And I think you're right there. Miss D, what do you think about that?
sorry. So, Matthew, you make an excellent point, and I think we can pivot that because if it's non-essential, then it will be left to us to think how can we make it an integral part of maybe being an accessory to the essential need. So let's say something non-essential, just for example, maybe Band-Aids, which of course we know is essential, but for the sake of dramatization purposes, and at a hospital, well, if the hospital doesn't need Band-Aids, but we look at the benefits of Band-Aids, and it's layered, you can look at that in a many different ways, then how can us adding Band-Aids to the repertoire actually benefit you either now or later? So I think it's just a matter of not seeing it as essential or non-essential. It's how can we make it work with what's already existing?
Brilliant.
Question.
And I need to,
Another
Please,
question I
please.
have is luxury, and what about the K-shaped economy? What's the impact of the K-shaped economy on luxury?
Blaze, can you educate us on the K-shaped economy?
So the
What is
K-shaped economy is where we're talking about the performance of the economy. There are actually two slopes. One is slope of what we call the middle class, which is sort of their economy is kind of going down. And then you have the upper class, which purchasing and all that sort of activity is on the upswing. So it's no longer a single slope on the economy. There's two slopes, the normal folks and the rich folks. And so it's referred to as a K because there are two going.
That's brilliant, because I think that really corresponds with what we saw over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, where the order amounts kind of stayed stagnant or even lower than years past, but the average order value went up. They kind of like, it was all high ticket items and those upper class buyers buying, whereas mom and pop were just like, hey, we're going to buy less. We're going to be targeted spending. Our good friend Ellie Ronning had a great treatise on this, all the way back in the day of November 25, feels like years ago, but you're spot on there. And I think the next thing is, how do we make ourselves essential in this fraud fighting landscape to whatever it is that we're selling? Keep this rolling, y'all. Ellie is our great friend. Thank you, Phil. Keep this rolling, y'all. These are real things. And you know what? We're going to talk luxury stuff, high AOV stuff in a second. But this is the beating heart of everything we do here. This is the master class. How are we being better at our jobs? But how are we being, future focused on, let's be honest, putting the food on the table for our families? Matthew, I see you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Vito, this is something we've heard you say before, and I don't always agree with everything that gets said here, but one thing that has really stuck with me is becoming more of an optimizer of revenue. So I love investigating fraud. I love going after, the Where's Waldos and looking for the things that are abnormal. I love that. And I think there's a place for that. I really do. But I also think that I'm trying to get better at coupling that love and what I really enjoy with also trying to take my space and see how we can actually add revenue and benefit to the company, so that when leadership looks at our role, they say, hey, they're not just out there trying to stop bad actors. They're also going out of their way to try to help make this company better by increasing revenue. So you've said that before, and I'm kind of just repeating it, but that would be my big call out.
My heart goes out to you. Thank you for doing my heart good with that one. I love it. If there's one thing you take away from the Wednesdays that you have spent listening to this I was going to say moron. This is a PG-13 fraudcast. Listening to this guy just blab away at you. That is exactly how you become relevant in the next phase, in this current phase. We hear so much. I think Shelley did a great job, always does a great job, but did a great job last week talking through that bottleneck of, you're saying no to a lot of things. You want to be there to have an opinion on things. If you can say yes to some things, if you can say, hey, what about this? If you can say, hey, let's look here, let's get the money's actually there. Because the one thing I've been preaching all of 2026, which feels like we're 9 calendar months in, is risk, which we all do. Risk is not just about fraud. You pay a lot of money to people, i.e. wealth management folks, investors, to find low risk solutions, low risk investments. If you can be that person to your company to say, hey, here's a low risk investment to focus on. We've got the data. We've done the math. They're always good. They're really not as bad as others. Maybe we kind of mine this field. You will find yourself very relevant. So Matthew, if you could hear me beating my chest for you right there, man, that is me saying thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for that. I hope all of you are kind of going down that route too and thinking about yourselves in that dangerous revenue optimizing way. One more. We got some new names rolling in here. We're at 34 people. Good Lord. Amazing. We've got all sorts of things going on in the chat. The gig economies like DoorDash and Uber drivers. Yeah. I mean, I saw a video of one of them robots. One of them robots was going over the tracks and that robot got hit by a train. I don't know if you saw this, but it was kind of like, it was like weird. I had a little sympathy, but I don't know. I was like, what am I being sympathetic for? This robot was going over the tracks, got stuck in that train, just, and next thing you know, there's like, I don't know, spicy ramen noodles like going everywhere or whatever was ordered by someone didn't get their cosmic brownies for the evening, so I don't know why I was sad, but yeah, the gig economy, right? Remaining relevant is tough, but necessary in today's world. That's what Ryan says. So I ask this of all of you, and I'm going to end my diatribe. Emma, I'm off the soapbox. Jared, you're spared from picking an economy that you don't want to work in. Jared's open for everything, guys. Jared loves all work. Jared, or maybe
it wasn't me that was like, no. So I don't know how much I can say in this, but I asked like Claude AI, I was like, tell me more about this payment processor for this industry. And Claude like yelled at me. It was like big bold letters, do not apply for this job. It'll ruin your career. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, Claude, I won't. Like, calm down.
It sounds like my grandmother got into Claude. You better not do this. They'll never look at you the same. Oh, Nana, if you're only watching us from that great nail salon in the sky right now, I hope you're proud of me. But yeah, I mean, there are some ramifications for some things that you get into, perhaps. And maybe there's not. If you could optimize revenue anywhere, maybe Philip Morris is a great place to work. I don't know. I'm still smoking them cigarettes. I don't know. And I'm not. I'm 6 years off, by the way. Anywho, there's so much to get at, and I'm just kind of going down rabbit holes here. I want to show you a few things and hear what you think about this. And I want to say hi to a bunch of new people who have just come in. Andrea, great to see you. There's 2 Andreas. There may be an Andrea. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, come off the chat and correct me. There's 2, y'all. Great to see you. Our good friend Robert. Robert, it's been a minute. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you. Here we go. How do I share my screen? I never know how to do this. Maybe that's what's going to put me on the chopping block of life, my friends. I'm not very good. Here we go. Bang, bang, boom. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For all of you who are tuning in the future, I recognize that I say, look at this. What does this look like? And maybe you're listening on Apple Podcasts. So, sorry, I'll do a little bit of a better job graphically explaining, maybe with some ASMR, about like what's going on here. Okay, so if you can't see it, I'll help you out. Hey, newsflash, y'all have been promoted. jazz hands for y'all. Y'all have been promoted. You, everyone who's listening here now, you have starred in 4 distinct master classes over the last, I don't know, year. We've got a master class on chargebacks and refund fraud. We've got a master class on AI and shopping bots. We've got a master class on false declines and revenue optimization, Matthew. Hey. And we've got a master class. This is kind of my favorite one, the Hacker's Playbook. Bizarre scams and true crimes. All of these available on YouTube, and all of them are starring y'all. So give them a check, share them with your friends, family, teams, and at your next cocktail party, you can use that as like a little bit of a bragging thing. Hey, I've been in a couple master classes, my friend. And if you're curious, or maybe you are in the market for some new masterclass material, if you'd like to see something covered here in a deep dive manner, which we're about to get into today, please come on out to the side Slack. So many of you are there already, but the door is open. We welcome you with open arms into the Fraudcast family side Slack. You take a little picture of this right here with your phone, you do the thing, and you're in the thing. There it is. Science, my friends. Science. So, with everything we've just said about economies, K-shaped economies, I love that, Blaze. I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. High AOV fraud. I have like some rankles with this, right? I think oftentimes in this game, we get a little suspicious, a little hot under the collar once that price point goes up. And Jared, I keep picking on you, man, but that it's love, it's the Garden State connection, it's so many things. But I know you've dealt with some very high AOV situations, as have so many of you. But I often wonder, I've seen data going one way, I've seen it going in the other way. Sometimes maybe that's some place where we're too conservative, where we're doing like the cha-cha slide, but we're not, cranking that soldier boy on it. Science right there, risk science, risk professional. Maybe we are a little too, tight on high AOV, maybe once bitten, twice shy. I don't know. So I want to show you some high AOV fraud that has come in recently, anonymized. Put the Dragnet theme song in right now for all of you who used to watch like the Nick at Night old stuff. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Bum ba bum 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 bum. I still love that show. Okay, some high AOV fraud anonymized for you. By the way, I do all my own graphical stuff here. So if you're listening in, on the screen right now is a picture that looks kind of fake of someone holding luxury handbags. Kind of looks like they're doing it like with 3 limbs. I don't know. I get like uncanny valleyed with this. There's a bunch of luxury handbags on the screen right now. For all of you on Apple Podcasts, Tubi, Sirius XM, wherever this is carried. I don't know these days. We are all journalists, my friends. Not only are we revenue optimizers, but we are all journalists. The journalistic endeavor, I spit my gum out right there. The journalistic endeavor is understanding the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's all anyone cares about. That's all we can really use to understand what's coming in, where the bleed's at, etc. So when we do the journalistic breakdown of high AOV fraud or high AOV MOs, modus operandi, we kind of get this. Who wants these bags, right? Who wants the good stuff? It's everybody, right? Which one of you doesn't want to be seen sporting this Lee vest that I'm wearing, or this Orvis shirt, or this what is this? This is a Top World hat. I mean, I only do the best and brightest, my friends. So if you want to dress like me, look like who among us doesn't want the finer things in life? Everybody, right? And what are they going after? It's that status symbol. You know this. We have so many great sociologists here on the Fraudcast. Listen to them and not me. There's no reason why somebody wouldn't want one of these things for cheap, right? When is a good time to get them? When are they going to strike? I've seen a lot across my beautiful data pool over here that anytime these high-end things go onto the secondary market, there's great terms for this that someone like Ellie can really help out with. When they go away from the flagship store that is selling them and they go into the secondary market, they come down a little bit in price and perhaps they come down a little bit in scrutiny. And that seems to be when the bad actors kind of go, oh, let's roll and go after them. maybe even on the marketplaces. I keep going for you, Jared, man. It's not personal. It might feel like a hot seat, but it's very much cool throne for you, my friend. Where are these things being targeted? Is it just one geo? No. Again, there's few items on earth that have this kind of applicability. One of them is yoga clothes, by the way. Yoga clothes, I don't care where you're at. You could be in Siberia. Them yoga clothes are like a hot item. Everyone needs a handbag. Everyone's looking for a birthday gift for cheap. And I would never do this to my lovely wife. I'd always pay MSRP for you, darling. And everyone's looking for yoga clothes. So it's like, it's cross-cultural. It's being sold everywhere too. You could like fence these on Facebook Marketplace, social commerce, etc. And think about this. For all of you who are dealing with like power outages or like winter storms and stuff, think about a Generac generator. It's on my like, Santa Claus. I want a Generac so bad. Now, don't talk to me about like, you got to get a gas line installed. That's a whole nother thing. But I want a Generac so bad. If I stole 20 Generacs, I mean, this whole thing will be filled. This would be a Generac room right here. I'd probably have to like reinforce the subfloor because there would be so much. The house would be tilting because I got 20 Generacs in my front room. But if I got 20 handbags in my front room, if I have 20 pairs of yoga pants, you see what I'm getting at. It's very low maintenance, and the margins are crazy. If I stole one of these, even at discount, and then I sell it to somebody for half of that. Ka-ching, 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 right? How are they doing this? Let's take a look at something that's happened very recently. And again, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. And here's what I see, my friends. Quick, low-hanging fruit signals. Okay, we talk high AOV, right? Most of this fraud that's coming in for these specific luxury handbags are between $4,000 and $8,000 and beyond. This is expensive stuff. Most of the buyer accounts are brand new, but guess what? Even on a good page, I'm seeing like 65 to 80% of buyers as those 0-day buyers. So get that Reg X thinking out of your head. If 0-day buyer, if expensive, if this, if that, then let's just think about turning it from a Rothko to a John Singer Sargent. We're putting a little detail into this, right? That detail is, it's going to be a lot of like newly spun up buyer accounts or God forbid guest checkout accounts, right? Finally, I love where I work and I love the tools and toys I get to play with because one of those tools and toys that I gets to play with one of those tools and toys I gets to play with is true IP geo, meaning I can see through a proxy IP and see where it's originating from. And that's kind of going to be the theme of this one right here. These true IP geos are coming out of Egypt, out of Nigeria, out of $100 of lost and found money. You get 10 minutes actually in the Fraudcast Lost and Found, where you can grab anything you want. If you can answer what country is CH. Oh. And you got to come off mute because I ain't looking at that chat. Sorry.
Switzerland.
Mr.
Gotcha.
Preston, the Confederación Helvetica. Switzerland, my friend. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well done. Preston, anytime you're at the ranch, you have 10 minutes on the Lost and Found. We've got umbrellas. We've got ponchos. You can have all of them. 10 minutes, whatever you can grab to your heart's content, my man. Well done. Well done. So we got some true IP geos kind of coming out of nowhere. This is one, and again, names have to be changed to protect the innocent. But we have an order that comes in at $6,000. The old fraud fighter in you. We have like two entities on our shoulders. We have the old fraud fighter, and we have that revenue optimizer, and they're both kind of competing for our attention. The old fraud fighter saying, $6,000. Oh no. Yeah, I sound like the what is it? From Shrek, the gingerbread man. I sound a little bit like the gingerbread man from Shrek. Don't take my buttons, right? Yeah, it's $6,000. Oh no. The revenue optimizer though is saying, okay. If I could find like some good here, this can be like a nice little thing. We definitely don't want to crush these orders, right? Because that's when you get that message saying, why did you block this order? What happened? It was Post Malone. It was Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. It was Jimmy Carter. I don't know. Like, it was just someone big. What are you doing, right? So Let's get that money in. Okay. The true IP, though, I mean, this is kind of a layup, but the true IP, it's a layup if you've got the goods. There's no such thing as luck when preparation is on your side, my friends. The true IP is in Egypt, and they park a proxy IP near the billing and delivery. Jared, again, hot seat, cool throne for you. You're like, Why in tarnation am I putting my proxy IP near my billing address? Now it happens with plenty of good people. It's not always a bad thing, but in conjunction with other things, it's kind of like raising the hairs on the back of the neck. Time on page, if you get to play with that one. Not always bad. Not always bad. Some people are just like, ding, 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 just buy it, get it, I need it now. Okay. But if we cohortize that bunch of folks who are spending less than 30 seconds on the page, we can get a good idea of how they're being referred to the page, how they're entering the page. Because now in this agentic world, and even in the old world, those old and black and white days of Google, you might be directed right to cart. So you might be spending only 10, 15 seconds. You might have autofill, etc. It's no big deal, right? But we're cohortizing. Now, identity. Everyone loves a good spider map. I learned that in my years here. Everyone loves a good spider map. But when we can identify drift in terms of, hey, this is Vito. Here's how Vito typically operates. He is not a singular entity. He has friends. Believe it or not, he has friends. I'm taking poetic license here. Okay. He has friends. He travels. Again, poetic license. He's got multiple devices. Poetic license. He does different things. He's got a little bit of a drift about him. He touches, that sounds weird. He comes into contact with many different geos, many different styles. He's either on web and mobile. Maybe he does a little bit of social commerce. There's an expected drift to your social profile. But sometimes that drift goes a little too far. The flotsam is just being pulled out into the ocean. The rudder cannot steer the ship. The falcon cannot hear the falconer, my friends. Little Yeats for you on this Wednesday afternoon. The center cannot hold, right? So here's your spider map of what I saw and what goes on. And maybe you can incorporate this into your bago tricks. When we analyze a case, an order, it's happening here in the middle. You got a couple of tangents that spit out. First is the automation factor. Again, none of these are binary bad. We know in this world, automation is king. I've been using that Gemini, my friends. I've been using that Gemini. It will never take my soul. It will never make my music. But I've been using that Gemini, my friends. In this case, we have a little bit of bot detection going on in terms of automation. We run the phone. We can see that the owner of the phone, names have been changed to protect the innocent, is Robert J. The cardholder is Maria G. The email belongs to an Alex Smith. We have AVS failure on this. And then one of my favorite toys to play with. And I have my App State Go Nears hat on. I do not have my Signified hat on. I'm not selling you on anything. But when you can get out of your silo and get a glimpse into commerce network data, however you want to do it, that gives you a little bit better of a picture of that new to you, not to the broader network situation. And that was kind of the smoking gun here. For the merchant, this was a brand new buyer. They've never seen this person before. Day zero. But the commerce network had 12 other orders associated with this buyer persona, this identity, and the signals were anomalous. There was significant drift, as I told you, from what typically happens with this buyer. And there's far too much risk to take on. This was declined. In this case, it was a kind of just a little bit of a scoring deal. Like, hey, don't do this. You don't want this. Merchant don't listen. That's great. You got to go and, hey, you got to run wild. You got to do your own thing sometimes. Lo and behold, chargeback comes back. Okay. After this first was spotted, a little conversation, more orders were listened to, and almost $300,000 was stopped in a 2-day period for luxury handbags, right? So where do we start with this? And this is where I hope we go with the conversation. I feel like I bloviated so much. I'm so sorry. This is all about you, not about me. It's about developing a tolerance, not necessarily that regex rule logic, if that, if then, Where do we tolerate certain signals? What do we set as a level of tolerance when you've got a certain amount of drift, so to speak? And we can unpack that. think dollars, but don't think dollars. These are your two competing. Oh, it's a high risk thing. No, you're going to make a lot of money. I'm telling you, it's going to be bad. It's going to sink the company. No, it's going to make the company. We've got to kind of balance that revenue optimization, right? I like this one a lot. Incentivize detailed account creation, right? I see more and more the best in e-commerce are moving away from guest checkout. More and more people are challenging that F word of friction and saying, you know what? There's so much more to gain in having somebody sign up, quickly than there is to lose. We're not going to lose them for life if they just got to plug in a couple of things, and if they start plugging in real funky business, that could be a signal in and of itself, right? So if we can incentivize that, it acts as a mild, minor tar pit for really automated stolen financial work. And you might be getting a better idea as to your attack surface. Finally, I would love to hear what you think about A/B testing in this case. Okay. Manual review might sound like it's gone the way of the dodo bird, but sometimes your model, sometimes your rule set, sometimes just your gut feeling might be telling you no. And maybe a manual review gets in there and says yes. And you can judge from that. And you could use that as feedback to your model, your rules, your gut, whatever it is. And that's a really collaborative, cool thing. So there's a question we like to ask a lot on the Fraudcast. It's not what do you think? It's what are you doing? What are you doing, y'all? I would love to hear from you. How are you handling high AOV? Does this ring true to you? Have you seen this before? What is the future of high AOV in this K-shaped economy? Thank you, Blaze, for emblazoning that into my head. Where do we go from here? It is time for a little Ogallala Aquifer water, my friend.
We're actually seeing a high AOV type of orders coming in. As a lot of you know, I'm still struggling with trying to build a solid fraud system after I came back from maternity leave. And so it's been fun. But what I'm seeing more recently that I haven't seen in the past is they're actually they're changing addresses to have the billing and the shipping address match on high dollar orders. I know it's happened forever, but we're starting to see it a lot more now. And we're a small branch store in a few different states. So if we're seeing it, I can only imagine the big retailers and everything like that. But when I've actually reached out to customers, talked to them, and I'm the first person to let them know. Their bank didn't know. And when I asked them where they live, like the lady I talked to this morning, she lives in Missouri. Order full address verification match. Everything's going to Texas. And so it's also prompting them to pay attention to their accounts and things like that. I think a lot of the times people that have higher dollar or people that have more money are not maybe paying attention or have other people that look at their accounts. And so I think a lot of the times those can be the targeted ones, but then there's also the regular middle class, people that are just trying to make ends meet that also get targeted. So I don't know if I quite answered your question, but I am seeing a very, very high amount recently within the last, I would say 2 weeks of them changing the whole, calling the bank, changing the whole address with the bank level and being able to use that card to make it look legitimate. Everything on the order looks legitimate. My years of experience here, I can look at the email and I'm like, that doesn't right. But they're even using a telephone number similar to those people. So it's very, very stressful, but it's also like, oh my gosh, what else are we missing? So
that's fantastic, Jessica. You didn't just answer my question. You took it to the next level. I'm going to keep you on the hot seat, which is a very cool throne for you, my friend. They're calling the bank and changing the address associated with the card in order to pass AVS.
Well, that I'm assuming, that's my assumption because how do you get, I talked to the customer and I'm getting a full address verification match on my end. Customer billing, shipping are the same, which usually we could look at those and be like, oh, it's a good order. Let's let it go. But my assumption is they are, and I know that there's a lot of bad actors. I watch a lot of documentaries and things like that, but they talk about how they can use social engineering and calling call centers for banks and people that put things on their social pages about everything that their first, the first street they lived on, their pet's name, everything like that. It just becomes so overwhelming with the information that's out there that I think it's become easier and easier for people or bad actors to call banks pretend they're somebody else. I mean, that person that I mentioned this morning, they chatted in trying to pretend they're the customer. And so I mean, they're more bold with what it is because it's a higher dollar amount. So I mean, even when I review orders, I go to social media because, like Miss D says, like social media gives away some of those details too. And so, I mean, a lot of the times, and people, let's face it, everybody uses the same password. I don't care. I don't know. I've not met one person that does not use the same password for like that changes it every single time. And so I think a lot of the times with them stealing credentials, triangulation fraud, when they go to websites and they're giving all their information, I think with it being February and holiday season, I think now we're going to start seeing a lot of those trends and a lot of those things happen because over the holidays, they, how do I put it? People are not so, they want that deal. So they're going to go to whatever website and they're going to give all their information. So now I see like they're giving that information. With that information, they're able to then possibly go to the bank and build off of that. They might be able to answer security questions, or maybe they're not going to the bank. Maybe they're doing it directly online because they maybe created an account on this place and they use the same password there that they use for their bank. So it's just different things to kind of think about of the security. And I guess for me is like, when is the person held accountable for not being diligent with protecting their own information? I mean, like when you have the same password for 5 different accounts and you get hacked, I mean, that's kind of on you. But or
We'll
not.
keep this on the ranch. Scraped chickens coming home to roost. Those $20 Timberlands that I almost bought on Facebook. Now is the time where all that data is coming in, like you're saying. I really want to. There's Jessica. You put a magnet. You put like a beautiful black hole into the shed, and everyone's coming in. Is the power of this community right here coming in? Paula's on. If you have proof the fraud was the result of an account takeover, the chargebacks are invalid per Visa and Mastercard rules. My friends, put that feather in your hat. That chicken's feather in your hat. Remember that if you have the proof. Okay, now getting that proof might be interesting. Paula, no pressure. If you have any best practices on getting that proof, we'd love to hear it. While you think about that, Jared has a great question. I have the same question too. What banks are you seeing the most, Jessica? Is it like those credit unions, the smaller banks? Is it the big ones? Is it just like that 44006649 Bank of America? Come on, that's good. This boy's got some stats that are so firing. Come on.
So I was gonna say, am I able to say the name of the bank?
You could say it rhymes with, or you could like.
Okay, I was like, it's not. Yeah. Well, I was like, just with today, I've seen the same name of. It's a credit card, and so as I explained to them, it's a credit card. They have to look at the back of their card to see the issuing bank, all that good stuff. Let's see here. Momenity rhymes with
think we
capital.
got that one.
Okay.
Peaches,
but that,
right?
Yeah.
Peach Pay? Is that on Peach Pay?
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but yeah, it's one of them where it's but it's a and Visa and Mastercard are usually the biggest ones that I struggle with, and just me personally, with fraudsters attacking them. And so I think it also has to do with so many things, from credit card industries to issuing banks to, I mean, imposter fraud, or even like impersonating customers. I mean, I've even seen that at buy online pickup in our stores, where they're using fake IDs, creating the credit cards to make it look legitimate, but they're using a gift card to create the credit card. So it's like a Visa prepaid card, but then they use the swiping, create the mag strip to be able to swipe it in store and be able to make it look legitimate. Or they're using IDs as a pickup person, and so they show their name, they're able to pick up the items. So I mean, it's just, in my opinion, it's just all over the place. But recently it's been that one specific bank that I've seen.
My head is spinning in a beautiful way. Please jump in.
So just to piggyback in regards to imposter fraud, one thing that I've noticed in the industry is whenever the customer gets a phone call, the number could, and what the fraudsters are really leaning towards are more dependable brands like Amazon, Apple, Walmart, the IRS. And so, and even the bank. So when they do place the calls to these customers, because it's the bank, and if they're in a rush or they're busy, life, and they're not going to slow down and verify, well, is this really the bank, or did they call from a number that I know? So that fraudster can call them, get access to their information, and then if they ask them, can you log into your banking information to confirm X, Y, and Z? Well, us on the fraud side, we already know that they have access to that information through the dark web. So all they need is for them to verify maybe the first 6 of the card number or the last 4. But some of the fraudsters use remote software. So if they're asking them to log into their banking, more than likely they're using whatever remote software, whatever they have to infiltrate into their device. I feel like that's how they can get in and change the address so everything looks like it matches, but in fact it doesn't. But if the fraudster is bold enough to actually change the email address, phone number, and all of that, any changes after that, because the real customer is not going to get anyway. So I think in regards to that, I feel customers, and even myself, I had to go through it. It doesn't hurt to take a few more minutes to go through and enable your banking alerts if your account is under a certain threshold, if something moves, because you may not be able to catch it right then, but it still gives you time to, hey, I didn't do this. Let me call my bank. And then it gives the bank a chance to at least fight on your behalf. So I kind of feel like that's why, there's an uptick in that and customer impersonation.
Take that to the bank, my friends, because I'm a big party guy. Anytime I get into an Uber, that is like all I talk about. Do you have alerts set up on your phone? If your credit card like sneezes, and like, that's my party trick. And so I'm the real life of the party. I hope that all of you, if you ever find yourself in one of them awkward situations, you're being a wallflower, you're sipping on the punch, and I don't know what to say to these people. Just come right in, interrupt somebody, and be like, do you have alerts set up on your phone if your credit card, farts, So that's a huge, Ms. D, that is huge. And we see this so often. I was privy / unfortunate enough to talk to about 15 victims of victim assisted fraud. We see this in the gift card world often. And all of them started and got entangled into this mess where they lost their savings because they Googled, how do I set up my Amazon TV, the Fire Stick? How do I set up my Fire Stick? It brought them into an expert chat. The expert is chatting with them. And lo and behold, as that chat goes on, they say, hey, plug this into your computer. They go onto the computer. They do exactly what Misty is saying. And I'm not the first person to report on this. You've all seen Kit Boga, right? Kit Boga is like the king of these things. And unfortunately, one of the things that this brings up for me, and I know we're at time, but we're hitting overtime. Overtime, my friends. One of the things this brings up for me is the problem with using demographics to prevent fraud or to assess things, because we truly need the ability to see, hey, this person is of a certain age range where they're vulnerable, and maybe this order amount is a little outside of what they typically do. But I also see the need to not think about demographics in that way too. It's tough. It's a conundrum. And I have this Boone hat on, App State Go Nears. I don't have the Signified hat on, but the only thing I see that can be the antidote or remedy for that is large language model based big commerce data that can see drift in a signal to catch that, because nobody can make, and they probably wouldn't be very effective. We can't make policies just based on somebody's age, even though we know in our heart of hearts that if we just focus on the very elderly and making sure that they're not being taken care of, that does all our hearts good. I feel like it's kind of what we're put here to do, the least among us, help them out, don't let them get fleeced. But this is you've really cut to the core of my heart. We're in overtime, so I would love for someone to take us out here. What are you thinking? What's left on the table? Where do we go from here? What is your story of inspiration and success for dealing with these high AOV suspicious orders and not being too much of a fraud hammer? And maybe there's some calculated risk you can take to get more money in. Would love to hear from you. The floor is yours, my friend, in overtime. It is the 10th inning, extra innings. We have bases juiced. We're down 1 run. All you need to do is just kind of tap one in. No outs. Just tap it in. Just make contact.
All right, I'll jump in because I know I started a firestorm regarding the
You did, Paula. Yes, yes.
issuers being liable for and it's actually both account takeover and fraudulent application. So people who are victims of identity theft, the banks are supposed to take every penny as a loss because it's their fault, 100%. It's never a merchant's fault because the issuer decided to open that account. The issuer is the one who helped change someone's address. So the issuer is supposed to be completely at fault. So when you look at your fraud, like the MasterCard, I know it's called like the fraud and loss report that it reports, there's a reason code of what it is. So reason code 03 on both Visa and MasterCard is fraudulent application. Reason code B on Visa is account takeover. Reason code 05 on MasterCard is account takeover. So the issuer themselves is acknowledging that the account itself was fraudulent, or that the account itself was the result of had an account takeover event. So these are the type of things that you almost guaranteed would win in arbitration. So just be aware of that. Like especially if you do get a hold of the victim says, I never opened that credit card in my life. I did not change my address to here. I don't live there. The bank did this, that they're at fault. They are supposed to take it. They're not even supposed to file the chargebacks at all. They're supposed to take it as a loss.
So if they do file a chargeback, what?
They are out of compliance.
Okay. And so what would be a good response for that?
So first, I would look at, like, if you have that suspicion of it, I would look to see if within your reporting, then you might have to pull out like your VAMP reporting and things like that of what the actual, or if you still get like the paper documents from, especially like MasterCard, we can still see the PDF of the paper documents, and it will give the fraud loss reason type, because you'll see stolen, you'll see moto fraud, or you'll see counterfeit. If you ever see fraudulent application or account takeover, that net chargeback never should have happened, and you throw that back in their face. And mind you, I worked for 2 large issuers. I know. I've messed up and made those chargebacks myself. So yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Paula, is that just for Visa, MasterCard, for the ATO?
I do know that because I haven't had that on American Express, but even from my own, I worked for 2 major issuers that were, one was Visa, the other one was MasterCard, and it's definitely black and white roll. And actually, even I just updated our info for like MasterCard's their most recent chargeback guideline. It's right on page 466. So of the January 2026 MasterCard chargeback guide. I got receipts.
Yes. Oh, 466. Get
Page
out.
466. And it's the, chargeback guide, merchant edition, January 27, 2026, page 426. The very last sentence. That if the acquirer can provide evidence that the transaction resulted from an account takeover, the chargeback is invalid. Black and white. They can't even fight that. And if they try to, take it to arbitration.
All we needed was a little sacrifice bunt. All we needed was, but Paula just hit it like through the roof of the dome, right? And it's still going. It's in orbit. It's like, it's become its own planet. It's bigger than Pluto right now. This is amazing. And a little bit of a sidebar here. Jared says, we need a Slack thread on this. I can't talk today. We need a Slack thread on this. Guess who just made a Slack thread on this? Yours truly. It's there. Keep this going. There's so much to be unpacked here. And this is the beauty of what we do every Wednesday. I tip my hat to all of you for being brilliant, bold, brave, and beautiful individuals, for knowing these kind of things, for having the passion that you do for this work, and for helping each other here to think outside the box, to maybe see themselves as revenue optimizers, but to still see themselves as defenders of all these kind of things, to strengthen their arms, loosen their tongues, and make them speak the truth of what we do here. I love it. You have made my day. You make my week always. frankly, you made my life. My wife, y'all, we're all there. So thank you so much for this. Keep it going in Slack. I can't wait to see where this goes. Paula with the MFN mic drop, PG-13. We still got past the censors on that one. Mic freaking drop, Paula. So everyone, throw up the Z's for Zahn. That was huge. That was awesome. Until next week, I will see you in Slack. Jessica throwing up the Z's. I will see you in the master classes, y'all. I'll see you on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. You could click on any of these things here. The Z's. And guess who's not sleeping on the job? It's Paula Zahn right there. I'm a boom, 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 boom. Y'all are the best. Have a great week. We will see you soon. Take care, y'all.